Hi guys, in this video I think we're going to do something a little bit different. Sometimes in conversations we get an opportunity to get nuggets of wisdom that we don't usually get when I do my own vlogs and I just say what I want to say. I have a really talented friend with me today. His name is Neil, and I think it's better if you introduce yourself, eh?
Yeah, hi guys. Happy to be on Nick's channel. My name's Neil. I'm a spoken word artist, and I arrived in Singapore from New York. I was born in New York, raised, went to school in the U.S., but then I've been traveling the world since. I've spent some time in England. I was in San Francisco where I started working for LinkedIn, and then they are the ones that sent me out here last year. And I've been exploring the spoken word scene here ever since I arrived. I'm really big on theater, really big on movies, and really big on writing. So I'm really excited to try to explore those concepts here.
Cool,
Yeah.
yeah. But when did you actually start the spoken word? Your fascination with it at least.
Yeah, so spoken word was something I didn't know existed until college. When I was in university, I saw a group doing spoken word, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool!" They're speaking, and it's like they're rapping, but they're being more poetic with it. They're being more flowery with the language, and really like my mind is firing, my imagination is firing, and I never really tried to do it myself while I was in college. I was more just an admirer. But after I left college, I had minored in theater, but that doesn't really take you anywhere. So I decided to enter the corporate world, and I wanted an outlet for something to do in a performancy kind of way. So I thought back on spoken word and decided to try to write a poem. A couple of years ago, I wrote my first poem and I delivered it at an open mic in Boston. And I think it went over quite well. And then promptly then didn't do anything for 2 years because I was like, okay, cool, like I got this out and I'm done.
Yeah.
But after I moved to Singapore, I was like, I kind of want to get this thing going again. I want to get this thing restarted because there wasn't really, I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know anything to do here. And I so just started Googling, Singapore poetry or spoken word. And I found a poetry slam and I just went to it. And the community's been really awesome so far.
Cool. So I went to his first poetry slam actually, and you won second prize, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So wow, you've only done one spoken word before,
Yeah.
and the second one you won second.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive, eh?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Go through that experience. Like, were you nervous? Second time only,
Yeah, I think I was quite nervous. I think a major aspect of it is just intense preparation, right?
Yeah.
Like even for my first time. So not only had written the poems well in advance, but I had did a lot of rehearsing of the poems by myself, just pacing around my room, pacing or like if I'm in the shower, saying the words over and over to myself, just religiously, making sure I'm comfortable with at least the words that I'm saying. And then everything else, you let the emotions happen, in the moment. But you try to block out, the individual people as much as possible because once you get into the words, it really should just be about the idea that you're espousing. It shouldn't be about who's watching, who's listening.
Right.
It should just be authentically, what you are trying to convey, and that helps apparently.
Cool.
So.
But do you ever vibe off the crowd? I know that's what stand-up comedians do, right? They judge their material based on the crowd's reaction. I guess that's not the same.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same. You might predict how the crowd might react at first when you're writing the poem, and you might even get feedback from a friend or two, right? So if I write a poem now, maybe I'll come to you, Nick, and I'll say, hey, Nick, can you just hear this and like let me know how you're thinking about it or where you're feeling certain things.
Yeah.
So when you do that with initial drafts of a poem, then when by the time you actually are delivering it at a poetry slam, you should have a pretty good idea of what you think they might react to. Now they still might do things that kind of throw you off your game a little bit, but
okay.
I tend to steamroll past those because I'm not as much good with the impromptu, with like improvisational, like freestyle rap or like improv comedy. Those things they're still terrifying to me.
Have you had any negative feedback? Like from the crowd as you're you're reciting your poem?
I think the worst feedback you can get is is no feedback, right? So you give a poem and like it's everyone's quiet, and then like there's maybe a smattering of applause, like polite applause, but then nothing, and you're like, really, what have I just done? I could have just delivered this to myself in the mirror and gotten a pretty equivalent response, right? I know nothing new from having done this poem, even if I got boos or I got people like gasping at certain points, being like, "Oh, I'm uncomfortable with this." That would have been more helpful than me getting zero feedback. So I actually I would appreciate, more even negative feedback as opposed to getting nothing at all, because then I don't know that I've done anything worth doing.
Yeah, I think that's the problem I have with my vlogs and like the stuff I write on my blogs as well, because you don't get too much feedback. People just click a like button, but they don't tell you like where you're going wrong, where you can improve.
Yeah,
so I mean, some people will just private message me and say, hey, this is great stuff. Here's how you can improve, and I really appreciate that, because man, I don't know what I'm doing. It's a $50 camera, terrible microphone. So like, I have no clue how this works.
But stunningly good-looking person. So.
Oh, well, I mean, I know I'm doing this video for free, but whatever. But yeah, so I know feedback is really important to me. So I really appreciate it when people just give me a private message, or even on the comments box, just tell me like, hey Nick, you're trying too hard. Like, even if it's a negative one, it's like, okay, so now I know how I can improve.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's just, like 20 likes and you're like, okay, so they like the video, but what do they like about it? That's where I kind of struggle, and I don't know how to improve. So I can relate to that as well.
Yeah, and I have similar feelings. I mean, if you're performing in a poetry slam, they're not going to tell you, oh, I really like that part, unless you stay after, to actually chat with them. So actually performing in the poetry slam is only one half of the experience. During the intermissions, like right after the slam is over, you really want to be talking to these people. You want to be talking to the other poets. You want to be talking to people in the audience and just getting their take on what they liked, what they didn't like, why they like poetry at all. Yeah. And it gives you ideas, man. It gives you ideas for the future. So yeah, with vlogs, it's more difficult, but we can still ask for people's feedback.
We can still ask. So please just let us know. I know this is kind of like the first interview style, conversation style that I'm doing. So if you could let me know, how this can be improved, I greatly appreciate that. So let's talk about maybe. You started in Singapore. Your first poetry slam was it last October?
It's last September, so almost a year ago. Yeah,
almost a year ago. Wow, time flies.
It really does, huh?
And now you're doing your own one-man show, which we'll talk about later. But tell us how you got this opportunity from just doing a couple of spoken words to getting your own one-man show. It's a big deal,
It is, and it's not something that you necessarily can predict or plan for. The best way that I've heard it described is, you work on something that you believe in or that you feel really makes you happy, and it puts you in a position. The more you work at it, it puts you in a position for other incredibly random but awesome things to happen. Right. So what happened was I was at my third or fourth poetry slam, and afterwards, a man approached me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing your own thing?"
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I have not thought about that." But he gave me a card, encouraged me to think about it, and I ended up going out for a coffee with him, and we actually chatted about what it could look like, and it's now turned into this theatrical show where I want to still leverage what I feel like I've been doing successfully, which is spoken word, but I'm turning it into more of a theatrical piece where there are multiple characters, and it's more of a single storyline as opposed to just a collection of poems.
Right.
Yeah. And so that all was brought about just by someone being in the audience, at a poetry slam that I decided to sign up for and attend. And then I guess the other component to that is me saying yes. So I could have very easily said no to something like that because I didn't envision myself doing it. But when I was reflecting on it later, I was thinking, this is really someone is going out of their way to open a door for me. So unless I really know it's against what I believe in or something, like maybe I should give this a shot.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very happy that I have done that. It's been a bit of a slog, but I think I haven't been prouder of many other things that I've done in my life than this. So,
you should be, right? And I think there's something to be said about that. I think opportunities always come after you take the risk. Sometimes you just wish, hey, I want to be a spoken word poet, I want to have my own show. But these things never really happen unless you just go straight for it and just
Yes.
take that risk.
Right.
I mean, it's only been a year, and you're already having your own one-man show, and I'm sure other spoken word poets will be really jealous about this.
Oh.
But I mean, just talk about like opportunities. Like, I know it's random, but you still had to try and carve your way through the scene to make sure that these opportunities and doors open for you. So
Yes.
maybe you can give some advice on like, what it really takes to have opportunities, come to your feet.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're trying to understand, how can I bring opportunities my way? It's really it's being noticed. It's people being able to give you opportunities if they know that you exist and they know that you're working hard at your talent,
Yeah.
and that you are open and you are honest with people. So I think for starters, if you're trying to plan what is a good opportunity or how can people deliver opportunities to you, you want to make sure that you're on top of this, hill, and in order for you to get up to the top of that hill, you have to say yes to things, right? You have to sign up for things. You have to have your own impetus to do things, in the dark of your room, during those late nights.
Right.
And so I think there's probably two things that this would generalize into is that, you need to have some sort of internal force compelling you forward, right? This internal motivation. And then you also need to have something that's out there that you have said yes to and you've made a commitment to, right? So I guess the equivalent for running would be, you have like this deeper need. I want to be fitter.
Right.
I want to actually get healthier. I want to go for runs. But then you also need to sign up for races if you're really going to like keep improving your game. I'm not going to run a 10K unless someone tells me to run a 10K.
Unless there's no end goal or reason to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think if I'm thinking about things, that mix of internal and external, maybe internal is what is helping me get started on this journey, that like I really want to do performing, I really want to just get my voice out there. So I start writing, right? But I don't actually know what that writing is going to evolve into until I sign up for something like a poetry slam. And then they're like, you must have 3 poems and you must, they must be 3 minutes long. And you're like, okay. So now I need to find a way to get 3 poems out there. And that's how I actually, close it off into an actual interval. So with those two mixes of motivation, the internal and the external, then you can, be noticed, right? Like those two things are all going to be served for you to be noticed, for others to then give you opportunities later on.
Right. And I think Neil and I had this discussion, a while back about internal and external motivation, and where I disagree with him, and I think I spoke about this in a previous vlog, I feel like external motivation is, it's kind of like cocaine, the high comes really quickly, but then you're always looking for the next fix because, for example, when I first started out, I was struggling when I was writing the manuscript for my first book, and it was taking really long for me to finish. Well, I don't know if it's really long. I just didn't know how to write because it was my first novel, so I had no clue what the format was like, what's a good story and stuff like that. Yeah. And someone actually told me, why not you submit for a writing competition and then you actually have a deadline. So whether it sucks or it's good, you have to fill it in. And I thought it was really good, but the problem is once I actually submitted it and I got rejected, the motivation that really brought me towards the end to actually finish my book was internal, because I knew I had a great story and I really wanted to tell it whether people wanted to read it or not. Yeah. And it wasn't the external motivation that got me there. It was really just that drive to finish it. But I still hear what you say. So, I mean, which would you feel is more important? At least at the start, is it external or internal motivation?
Well, if you feel like you have something that you want to do, if you feel like you have something that you're passionate about, that you have something you really want to work on, then I would say internal motivation is more important, right? And that's going to carry you through. So if you really know that writing is something that you want to do, then that needs to be powerful enough to carry you onward.
Right.
But if you don't know that there's something that you want to do, or what that thing is, and you're a bit more wishy-washy about it, which has happened to me on plenty of occasions. I think actually external motivation is important at the start, very important at the start. You want to force yourself into positions where you start to react rather than act. You start to react to how you are feeling in those circumstances. So let's say you don't know if you enjoy traveling around the world or not, right? You start by traveling to somewhere, right? And you force yourself. You buy that plane ticket, or you buy that train ticket or wherever to get yourself to travel somewhere. And then you reflect on it, right? You say, how is this making me feel? Like, do I really enjoy this, or is this something that's not? And if the external motivation doesn't lead to you to have any internal motivation to travel more, then you should scrap it. Right? Then it's something. Then the external motivation hasn't produced anything, and then it's just you forcing yourself to do stuff.
Right.
So I would say internal motivation is probably more important, but not everyone can have internal motivation at the beginning. So external motivation is important to sometimes bring about the internal motivation, but also external motivation in a different scenario is important for actually closing, like giving your internal motivation some structure. So for instance, if I'm like this show that I'm working on, I got some very vague guidelines about what the show could be about, but otherwise he said, have at it, just go ahead and proceed. And so I was writing this show, and I was like, when do I finish this? when do I finish this show? And it was really only when I had some guidelines from my director that, one-man shows usually don't go over an hour long. We don't want an intermission. We want everyone to be there for a punchy hour, and then we want to leave them happy and satisfied. So that people giving you guidelines, people saying I need a draft by June 15th or something like that. Those are the kinds of things that make me go, okay, I have to make tough decisions here. Otherwise, I can just keep ruminating in my head endlessly.
Right.
So that I would consider that external motivation, right? That I have this external motivation to finish, and that will help me produce something that then I can evaluate whether or not what I'm doing is valuable or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe some of the audience might actually have got this, but I think that's the real way to articulate what external motivation is. It gives you structure.
Yeah.
Right? Because internal motivation just gives you the desire to really want to do something, right? So for me, it's try to tell good stories, and whether it's storytelling or through these blogs, it's just a way to do it. But the structure I give myself in terms of external motivation is every Sunday I need to put out a video. And it for the entire week, it forces me to think of great material. When I say great, I mean things I feel might be of value to people.
Yeah.
And then by Saturday, because I have a regular job as well. So Saturday I film, and Sunday I post. So that's what external motivation is. I didn't think of it that way. It's structure that you would never otherwise have, right?
But even then, I would want you to give yourself credit here. I think that it actually is. I would consider it internal motivation if you say yourself without telling anybody, you just tell yourself, I need to produce a video every week. That's still you doing that, man. That's still you sort of having the strength to do that. I think
discipline.
the discipline to do that. I think the external motivation comes about when you announce, on your channel, you're like, I will be creating a video every single week, and then your viewers are like, yo, Nick, where's my video? And then you're like, oh, I have anything, whatever it is, I need to film a video
put some
of
shit out, of me jogging and stuff. Yeah.
So that's the external motivation. Is if you ever feel like that's getting tough for you to do, that you just announce to people nope, I promised on this channel I will do it every week, and then they're holding you accountable for that.
Right. But you see, that's the part where I worry the most, because if I tell people, shit, every Sunday I'm gonna post something, and then it'll come to a point where there'll definitely be one week where I don't really feel like I have anything valuable to say. I don't want to post 27 selfies, or just me going to the beach or eating chicken rice. It's just pointless videos in my opinion. So that's why I would never tell people you can expect every Sunday 5 p.m. I'm gonna post something. It's more like a schedule I give myself so that I can be productive throughout the week. Because when you have a regular job, and I mean
I
you
agree.
can relate, right?
Yeah.
When you have a regular job, it's so easy to just forgo the things you really want to do, because when you come home from work, you're exhausted.
Oh.
You just don't feel like doing shit.
Mhm.
Even the idea of just going out for a jog it's Netflix and chill and then sleep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I mean, things like what you said in terms of external motivation, just giving yourself that structure, it really helps me. At the end of the day, even just after dinner, I'm super tired.
Yeah.
I just said no, just 15 minutes, just brainstorm what videos I can make, and then that's Monday, and then Tuesday I'll be like, okay, let me write like an outline of what I would envision myself saying.
Mhm.
And then Wednesday it's just practice, Thursday practice, Friday practice, like in my mind. Like I don't have a script. It's off the cuff, but in my mind I kind of know what I want to say, but in my mind I'm giving myself that structure, and then on Saturday I'm like, all right, let's do the vlogs. And over the weeks it just gets easier because like it's momentum, right? And that's what external motivation I feel gives you. It gives you momentum because like there's a goal at the end. Internal motivation is something like I really want to tell stories. External motivation is I want to tell stories every Sunday. That's how I see it. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think external motivation. I think external motivation is more about providing definition for exactly how you are going to, produce work or produce results, right? The results that are actually out there in the world for people to see. Something about what you said was also really interesting. And by the way, that was I think like a class on how to give a presentation, whether or not it's for business or anything, is like, what I've learned is, not actually writing a script from scratch, like having just like the structure of what you want to say, and then just practicing it over and over, giving yourself the opportunity to say it in different ways. I think that breeds success in all kinds of presentations. So kudos to that.
Yeah.
But,
I'll know when I give an actual presentation.
You're giving presentations on online. That's the same kind of thing.
Perfect. Yeah.
But I'd say like the thing that you say about, let me just do 15 minutes of this, I think that really speaks to me because, even when you're trying to internally motivate yourself, sometimes you do love something, but like energy level is just not there, right? That's the way life works. So one thing that has been really helpful for me in the writing process is having a ridiculously easy regular goal that I'm internally motivating myself with. Like I will write 5 words a day, right? And that's ridiculous, right? That's anybody can write 5 words a day. You can say my name is Neil Basu, and then you can just shut off your computer, be like, I'm done. I got my streak,
and you feel accomplished, right?
You're like, I've done it. No one can tell me I haven't done my 5 words, right? But most of the time when I write 5 words, I'm like, you know what? I've gotten started and I can just write a little bit more. I can write for like, an additional paragraph or something like that. And then it was just the fact that I, laced up and was ready to go for even a second that because I'm out here, I might as well do it a little bit more. I'm going for a run. Why don't I just get ready? I'll run just to my front door and I'll run back. But if I'm running the front door, I might as well go outside. That kind of thing.
I think the most valuable thing, and I mean, what you say reminded me of that, was Terry Crews, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he said like the toughest part about getting fit, having a body like his, is actually to go to the gym. So like when he starts out, he just goes to the gym, and even if he just reads a magazine at the gym, he feels accomplished because he made it to the gym. And I thought to myself, that's true. Like every time I tell myself, I want to write, but I never open my laptop. I just be like, yeah, I'll do it at 5, after work. And then by the time you reach there, you'll think of something else to do. Someone will tell you like, hey, let's go for dinner. I really want to, chat with you or have a conversation. And you just, you throw it out the window. But the truth is, you just need to show up, and then, everything else kind of falls in place, because you're already there. I mean, what are you going to do? If your laptop is open, of course you'll write, So I don't know. I feel it's really valuable just to put yourself in the position where you have an opportunity to do what you said you were gonna do. I think that's really it. If you say you're gonna do something, just go to the place where you were gonna do, or open up for me, I guess it's Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
And just stare at it for a while. Eventually you'll have to write. If not, you'll just be like, well, what the fuck is this? Like I just open like a loser and not doing anything.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I think it's really valuable if you're just at the place or in the zone where you need to do something.
Yeah.
And you don't have to feel obligated to actually do it, right?
Yeah, it's physics, right? It's Isaac Newton telling us that an object in motion will stay in motion. An object at rest is going to stay at rest until you give it a force or give it like some sort of push. But once it's moving, it'll keep moving unless friction stops it, right? So if I am already starting to write, I will write. Right. But if I haven't written yet, then you need to like push me to write. Right. So that's all it is, and I'm glad that you feel the same way.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
All right. So Neil, you spoke about your one-man show earlier in the video, but maybe you just want to describe, what this one-man show will be like, and just why people might want to come and see it.
Sure. So this one-man show is loosely based on my life. So if you are an expat in Singapore, you should come for just that reason alone. Because my life is not very different from most people's lives that expats in Singapore. You land here and you're trying to figure things out. You're trying to make new friends. You're trying to figure out what your path is here and how you might best take advantage of being in a brand new place.
Right.
If you like poetry or words, this show is something that rhymes the entire time. And even that rhymed.
Wow.
So it's something where I wanted to do it in the spirit of a show that I deeply respect, Hamilton, which is a Broadway musical currently in New York and various other markets. And I really responded to Hamilton because not only do you tell a powerful story, but you tell a powerful story and you do it through a convention that you never let up on. It's always in rhythm. It's always rhyming. It's always, and Shakespeare was great at doing that back in his day, right? That he did entire plays in verse. And so I wanted to keep to that tradition. And so in that tradition, this show it's just an hour long. It's not a Shakespearean epic or anything, but it's an hour long and the entire thing is in verse and the entire thing is in poetry. So if you want to come see that and spend an hour doing that as opposed to spending an hour watching just the next episode of whatever, then please come and see it then as well. So that's and it's a show that I originally thought maybe I can just talk, right, into the way that I'm talking to you now. But I have this acting background, and I felt more comfortable actually trying to act things out in the past as opposed to just telling you about them as stories right now. So the show is going to start with a narrator who's going to be talking about, I don't want to give too much away, but talk about like the confines of where he is right now. Yeah. And then there are going to be flashbacks to scenes in the past, and I'm going to be acting out a couple of different characters in the past. And it is a one-man show. There is only one person on stage who is me. There are numerous other people involved in helping make it a reality. There'll be a talented stage manager and of course a talented director who is really helping me find my voice.
You want to shout out to them?
Haque, thank you so much. Method Productions, HCAC, please check them all out on Facebook and various other online sources. They're awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I can put the link, somewhere.
Yes,
so,
please. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be cool. So how is that? I mean, in terms of self-promotion, are you comfortable trying to promote? I mean, because this is your first one-man show.
Yeah.
And I mean, things I worry about when I try to like sell my stuff is that, am I actually good enough to be telling people to come see my shit or buy my stuff,
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part, even though I see it as something that's useful to them. I mean, how do you find self-promotion?
I'm very uncomfortable with self-promotion.
So same. Okay.
So I think it actually goes back again to that internal external discussion we were having earlier. So this is generally speaking, I try not to talk much about myself. I like to ask other people questions and talk to them about their lives. But when it comes to something that I am creating like this, the only way that people are going to come see it realistically is if I talk about it. Right? And so that becomes a form of external motivation, right? So like my internal motivation is I want people to see it because it'll make me feel good and because I've been working on this. But my external motivation is I need to actually talk about it because otherwise people are just not going to show up. So it becomes a sort of necessity that you just have to do. It's like brushing your teeth, right? And as you start getting into it, you start realizing that there is some sort of internal motivation aspect to it, in that, you really do believe the words you are saying. And I think that's important with self-promotion, is that you're not trying to sell yourself as something that you don't actually believe you are. Right. So I wouldn't say that I am the next Shakespeare, incarnate, but I would say that, I worked really hard on a show that is done in verse, that I think is written fairly well, especially with direction and help from my mentors and peers. And I do think it is an engaging piece of material for 60 minutes. So why not talk about that? Why not tell people that as incentive for them to come? Have you felt the same way? When you were releasing your book, for instance, right? Like, how did you feel about that?
Oh man, that was tough, and I think at this point it really helps, like especially at the start. And I guess for an expat that's a little bit harder, because I have friends and family who'll be like, oh, you wrote a book, let me read it. How much is it? Oh, it's only $10. Like, everything is a yes. It's easy to make the sale, but then beyond that, it's like people who don't know you will be like, okay, so first of all, I mean, I've never heard of you, and second of all, like no one in literary circles actually know about you, and then if you expand it, no one else in the world knows about you, and that's kind of like a benchmark for people, and there's nothing wrong with that. They use it as a benchmark to see, like, should I invest some money to buy a book that I've never heard of the author, like there's no rave reviews, stuff like that. So for me it was really hard, but at the same time it was, and I think that's why it helped that I was so internally motivated to write this book, right? It's like I was okay to write a book and spend a year and a half writing a book and have no one read it. That was not really a big deal for me. But when I talk about it, people actually want, like this year especially, and it was really interesting, like people felt the emotions when I described my book. I told them it was really the best experience of my life. When I spent in Ecuador, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about culture and ideology that you never really learn if you don't really just go out there and explore. And I thought that was such a, this is a story like no other Singaporean would want to, might never have that opportunity to experience. And I thought, okay, let me write this story. It's okay if they don't read it, but if they do, they'll get something out of it, and I'll be happy about that. So that's how I, like, I never really promote, and I know I should be, but when I tell people that I've written a book and this is what it's about, they're like, all right, let me go and buy it. So I guess it's the really slow process of sales. So like if I was a pure salesman, which I was for a while, like people would hate that, like my manager would be like, all right, Nick, what the fuck? You made 3 sales in a year? Like, that's so sad, like, but for me it's meaningful, because those guys, they're like, all right, I've met their author, and I understand his passion for why he wrote that book. Let me buy and read it, and they benefited from that. At the end, when they finish the book, they send me a private message and stuff like that, and they'd be like, in terms of writing, you have a lot to improve on, but in terms of the story, it was fantastic. I learned a lot, and I appreciate that, because I get feedback on both fronts, right? how I can improve, and also just the fact that they enjoyed it. And then I realized, like, okay, so $10 wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't a crime for them to pay that much, because they got something out of it. So I don't know, that for me, self-promotion is more like getting people's attention. So like I never try to sell them anything, because I mean, hey, if you want to buy something, you buy, like I don't, it shouldn't be up to me to convince you to buy something. And for me, it's just like, let me get your attention and let me tell you, what I'm about. And that's the purpose of these vlogs, really, just to be as transparent and honest about, certain things that I feel and who I am as a person. And if you like my stuff, then you can, watch more, buy my books or whatever. But, if you don't, okay, like I don't invest too much time in them, in people wanting to be part of it. If they don't want to be part of it, it's okay. Like as long as someone wants to watch my stuff, I'm really happy. So that's why I'm glad I still have my parents, because they watch no matter what, like they're super supportive.
Absolutely, yeah. I have the same impression, and I think you hit on something that it's just now occurring to me is. The self-promotion really should be happening in stages, right? You don't go right to the mass market publication, like, I've written this book, okay, like, people in Italy, you want to buy this book, and you're like, hey, you don't know anybody in Italy.
Exactly.
You're going to buy with anybody in Italy. So I think friends and family are obviously the baseline, right? Like you give them access to it first, and you get their support first. But then you target audiences that you think are most likely to enjoy it. Before you go to mass market or whatever the equivalent phrase is. I think anything that started out with a community that really, really cared about it first, and they're the ones that helped you bring it to the rest of the world. That could be anything. It could be anything from a product or service. It could be like even the company that you once worked for and that I still work for, LinkedIn. They probably started by saying, who's going to find this most useful? Let's go to them first and make sure that they sign up for this social network. And then they took it mass after that. So then when it comes to sales, like they can afford to say, okay, I need to hit quota numbers by the end of the month because they're now in the mass market phase of their promotion. But for people like artists like us are just like starting out and we're just trying to explore and find our way. I think finding those communities that really care, that really you think would be more receptive. Those are the people you want to be talking to at first. And so that's how I feel like I've been doing it with this show. Is I'm trying to talk to anyone that has ever engaged with spoken word. I'm trying to talk to any expat that's ever felt like really that's uncertain about what to do and how to remake themselves in a new place. And so those are the groups that really I think would identify with this show the most. And beyond that, anybody that is just interested in theater should be going to the show.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think that was in terms of self-promotion that you were mentioning, like the hardest part for me at the start was to eat humble pie, because when I first published my book, I was like, everybody should read it, because I'm the shit. But really I'm not, and I you have to accept it. And someone, I always forget who actually told me this, but he or she, whoever it is, thank you for this advice, sage advice. He or she told me that, writing is for you, but once you publish it, it's for them. So, regardless of who reads it, make sure it's a book worth reading, and then after that, just let it go, go to your next project, So momentum in terms of, just, reaching out to your small community, and I'm super grateful to like my friends and family because, whatever I do, they're like, all right, where do I watch? Where do I buy?
It's fantastic. You can't imagine anything better than that.
And it's true, right? So like when people, it's kind of frustrating to me when people say, I did this on my own. I'm like, I don't think you did, like it's like, people who supported you, sure, you give value to them, but people who supported you did it regardless of whether you had value to give. They were like, no, I like that you're trying to do something. Let me help you get there. So like, I'm super grateful. Like, I think that's the real benefit of self-promotion. Like when you start, you only need to start with the people who care about you. And then from there, when you get proper feedback on how you can improve, you start making better things. And when that happens, then, you feel like what you're doing is worth self-promoting. I don't know, what do you think that's true?
No, I can't even say it better than that. I think that's exactly how I feel. Any artistic pursuit that you do, more power to you if you have literally been able to do it by yourself. But I have never met someone who has been able to do that. You always need advice. You always need support. You always need direction from, people that help you when you get stuck. And so when you say you do something on your own, you really must be feeling a certain kind of bravado to be able to say something like that, because it's really never by yourself.
I don't think. Like the people I know, like there's always at least one person they say, yeah, I owe so much to, like,
Mm.
and I think this is where, like, you kind of hit the lottery in terms, when you get your one-man show, the real benefit of your one-man show is that you have a talented director
Oh, yeah.
to tell you like how to make it awesome, So I mean, anyone can create a one-man show, but to have a director make it, I mean, someone who's like, really, big in the scene, make it, what it is now. I mean, you owe a lot of a debt of
I do.
gratitude to
I do.
people like them.
Absolutely, yeah. This show does not happen and is not the quality level that it is without me working with Camille, without me working at HCAC, and when you do that, you also then get these other random interactions with people that are also at HCAC that are super talented individuals that you again wouldn't have had the chance to interact with or get inspired by. And that inspiration also helps you in an indirect way, or maybe even in a direct way later on.
Right.
So it's just a constant just debt of gratitude that you feel like you owe anyone that has helped you touch you or help you mold your artwork into what it is. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I was just thinking when you were saying that, I think maybe that's the best way in terms of self-promotion. Never work by yourself, because when everyone works with you to make something awesome, then I guess promoting it is easy because it's a whole bunch of people putting their creativity and their hard work together. And basically you're selling a group of people wanting to create something worth creating, So you're never really promoting yourself. You're promoting something bigger than you. So if you create something that's bigger than you, I guess it's easier to self-promote. I guess.
Yes. Yeah. It's easy to raise self being like on behalf of the show as
Yeah,
opposed to
yeah,
on
the
behalf
show,
of
yeah.
yourself. Yeah. I think that's wholly true, right? If I'm promoting this show, it's also on behalf of Camille. It's also on behalf of HCAC. It's also on behalf of a choreographer friend of mine who is volunteering her time to help me with movement. It's also on behalf of another friend of mine who helped me with the design of the poster.
Yeah.
It's on behalf of so many people that I'm doing that their work is not going in vain, that their work is all to serve this larger end product that
Right.
is supposed to shine and is supposed to leave you feeling satisfied and inspired.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you self-promote, right? Because it's bigger than you now. It's not just you. So I don't know. I used to struggle with self-promotion a lot, but I think you struggle when you set unrealistic goals, like when you're promoting with the intention to get people to I guess in this case like vlogs, if I'm promoting with the express intention to make sure that they watch everything, then it's unrealistic, but if you tell them, hey, I have this vlog, it's about this and this, and then give them an easy way to check it out, like a link.
Yeah.
And if they do, great, that I think that's the self-promotion you have to do, but everything else I think you don't really have to worry about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of there's a lot of variables and moving parts that happen along the way, maybe, like for example the video about depression, and I mean, it got a few more views than my regular videos, but it hit enough with someone else, and that person sent me a private message, and she said like, thank you, sometimes these are common problems that no one talks about, but when one person talks about it, it just makes someone else feel less alone. And that's really what it is, right? You self-promote so that someone gets that opportunity to see it, but whether they see it or not, it's not important. But if they do and they benefit, then it's kind of like a win-win.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah. So I guess that's the real takeaway from self-promotion, right? Don't really worry about what happens after you self-promote.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't let it reflect on you if you self-promote and then the results are what they are, right?
Yeah.
That has happened regardless. The self-promotion is just to give people an opportunity to make the choice to come see it. If it speaks to them, they will.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about what I think is a really important topic for me, at least.
Yeah.
So both of us have a regular job, and both of us are also trying to pursue the artistic side of us in the hopes that maybe something might materialize from that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you think we're hindering ourselves by having a regular job and not, fully committing and taking the risk to pursuing what, we want to do in the future?
Yeah, big questions,
I
big
know, I
questions.
know, yeah. I think about that all the time, because I commit to my regular job as well, and I work hard because a part of me fears that I'll never make it in this side, and so I need to hedge my bets on something a little bit more stable.
Yeah,
But what I learned over time is that the and of course this isn't my situation now, but what I've learned over time is that when you get achieve comfort before you achieve your goals, you'll stop striving for your goals because you've reached a certain level of comfort that you're not willing to give up. And I feel that I'm also heading in that direction by having that stability on one side, because what I'm trying to do is build up my comfort level, and then once it reaches a point where I'm not willing to give it up, I'll never chase that dream of becoming a whatever it is that I want to be. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think there are multiple ways to think about it. The starving artist, vision is something that you are, if you are interested in art, it's something that you are told from quite a young age, that is what you're going to have to sacrifice in order to be able to do it. I think it's an interesting one because if you are intending for you to do your artwork full time, or whatever your artwork is, running could be your artwork, right?
Yeah.
But if you're intending to do it full time, what you are saying is that this is going to be commercially viable, and that's not something that we think about that often, but that is what you are saying.
Right.
And I am not. I think for me, I am not in a position to say I want my artwork to be commercially viable, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on it. So I actually think I do more of a service to the thing that I'm pursuing, my writing, my performing, if I do not, put the onus on it that it has to produce money.
Right.
And I think that is what allows me to do better work. I'm not stressed. I'm not so stressed out that I feel like I need to churn something out and it not be authentic. I can wait for inspiration to strike, for instance, as opposed to saying, no, I have to produce something, and I need it to be, it doesn't matter if it's terrible, or then I need to try to sell it. That's when you start getting away from, what we were talking about with self-promotion, what we were talking about with internal motivation. It becomes all external motivation. It becomes all about the inauthentic promotion cycle.
Right.
But I think for me, being able to say, I have a job that is supporting me and I'm grateful for it, and it's giving my soul the ability to breathe, to do this other thing on the side. And that's really what is allowing it to nurture. Now, at some point in the future, making the leap from, part-time to full-time spoken word artist or performer, it's still a viable possibility, but you don't need to rush it.
Yeah.
I don't ever feel the need to rush it. And that's my point of view. And I do think that there are downsides to doing it that way. And that's, all the stuff that you talked about before, Nick, with energy, right? Energy is huge. It's so big in the game of performing. And when I come back from work, I do not want to act the shit out of this part. I just want to relax and watch Netflix and order in from Food Panda. So like I totally hear that, and I think it's just everything in life when you're an adult becomes a system of trade-offs. And so for me, the trade-off is, I need to find, tricky ways of getting around the energy situation, but that my artwork does not become something that has to produce money right away and support me. And that, I think is a trade-off that I am willing to make, as opposed to going about it the other way, where I feel like I'm living a riskier life but I have more energy to devote to my artwork. And, some people might go that other way.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I guess, and that's something I'm starting to appreciate, at least now, or at this point in my life, that, and I think about it in terms of trade-offs, like you were telling me, those people who've made it commercially viable to be an artist, now they have this responsibility to milk it for as long as they can. And so the quality sometimes is squandered because, you know, you need quantity so that people can constantly remember you.
Yeah.
So having a job, an actual job, and a chance to pursue, you know, your creative side or whatever your dream is, on the other side, you know, it kind of alleviates the pressure, you know, because you feel like, you know, hey, I don't owe anyone anything, you know. Here's me telling you what I feel. Here's me expressing myself. Here's me being creative.
Yeah.
If you want to buy it, great. If you don't, whatever, you know. Like, I have money, so I don't have to think about, you know, if I'm gonna have dinner today or
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. I think that's the thing that we kind of forget, that, you know, we can be artists without having to think of it as a career, you know. We can express ourselves and give value to people and help people, or, you know, entertain people without worrying that, you know, if no one pays me, I'll never be able to do it, you know. I mean, for me personally, I can't speak for everyone. You know, I have other passions that I can pursue that is more commercial, much more commercially viable rather. And so I can capitalize on that and still pursue things I want to pursue,
Yeah.
without worrying about, you know, if there's going to be a $10 note in my wallet. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I think that it gets me thinking of like these, Hollywood actors, right? Where you're a really good actor, and you know your first few films are brilliant, and then you are like not acting, or you're acting in poor films, or
Yeah.
poor quality films, or films where you're not getting as well reviewed, and then and I think that happens as a result of you having to produce this quantity as opposed to this quality in order to keep acting full time, right? And just keep producing money that's going to support you and your family. So I think the ideal scenario for me, I remember from even a young age, was I will act in like a really awesome movie once every year or once every couple years, and then the rest of the time I'll do something else,
Right.
and that's not really viable in this day and age, because you can't do things by yourself. You have to do things with other people. And so if you're going to have agents, or you're going to have publicists, or you're going to have people that are constantly working with you, and then they have their own commercially viable business, then you have a responsibility to support them by you working as well, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have an agent, and you're telling your agent, I only want to work once every 2 years, your agent's like, well, you're fired.
Yeah. I don't need you.
I'm not going to get money from you.
Yeah.
And like that's how I'm making my business. So
Yeah.
you do have that responsibility once you enter the commerce side of things when you're performing.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of, okay, so let's add a caveat. I'm not an artist or anything like that. But, in terms of the struggling artist, I don't think that's a good mentality to have, because you give up on a lot. And I'm not talking about comforts or luxury or anything like that. Like, I'm pretty simple, so I don't think about those stuff. But when in terms of giving up on opportunity, what I mean is, there are so many other things that people might want you to be a part of, and you're going to say no because, I only want to be a writer. And that's fine if really that's all you want to be, but never close the doors, because we're humans, we have so many interests, and, why close the door when other people close doors for you all the time? Leave yours open and let other people close as and when they want. But when people open a door for you, and if it's something you're interested in, I don't know, I can't see myself convincing myself that I should say no, because, if it's something I like, and if it's something I'm going to get paid for, why not do it?
Yeah, that's the sweet spot, right?
Yeah, like that's the sweet spot. But if it's, then let me bring it down to another level. If it's something I don't like, but if it's something that gets me paid, but the trade-off is that I get a bit more time to do the things that I want to do, why not say no? Or why not say yes? Because, I mean, in terms of trade-off, what you're trading off is time and opportunity. That's the most important thing I think about, at least, like money, you can kind of accumulate if you know how to live frugally. You can always accumulate to do the things that you want to do, but you always have to, or at least I'm always thinking like, okay, time and opportunity. That's the most important currency I have,
Yeah.
because with my unhealthy eating habits, I don't know how long I have on this earth, so yeah. So you just that's what I mean by me not believing in the struggling artist. Like, never pass up on opportunities by narrowing your focus. It's my philosophy. I'm not saying it's right, but if you only have one life, you want as many opportunities as you can, right? You don't want to just streamline it.
Well, yeah, I would say I would qualify that by saying you'd want as many, opportunities of value to you, right? Like if
Yeah.
someone's giving me an opportunity to sell wallets in the market, I'm not just going to say yes to that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
because it gives me money. I think that there are people, and I've been lucky enough to meet a few of these people that they were born with a paintbrush, or they were born with a tennis racket in their hand, right?
Yeah.
And like that is the thing that they live and breathe, and more power to them for that. But I do think that is a minority.
Yeah.
So we are speaking to the majority when we
Yeah.
say that the struggling artist mentality is not something you have to conform to,
Yeah.
right? In order for you to do your thing, whatever your thing is. And
Right.
so yeah, that's I guess how I'd say that.
Yeah. And I mean, keep in mind, I don't think we have the right answer to this, right? I mean, it's just it's something that keeps me up at night sometimes. I mean, when I say keeps me up, it doesn't mean I'm stressed about it, but I think about it because if I have a regular job, how much time am I putting to the things that I want to do? And because I procrastinate a lot, and I'm lazy, and if I don't have a regular job, then maybe I would just focus the time when I'm actually on it to the things that might get me to where I want to be. But at the same time, I just wonder, like, is that realistic?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you would just procrastinate and you wouldn't have
Although,
any
yeah,
money.
yeah, exactly,
and
yeah.
you wouldn't be able to have any doors open. So yeah, I totally hear you. That is something that it irks at you, and it continues to irk at you even after you are, well on your way doing it.
Yeah.
We're not on this path being like, yeah, we've taken the right path, but we see logic to this path, and that's
Yeah.
the logic that I guess we're trying to espouse.
Right, yeah. And it's possible, right? You have a regular job and you're gonna have a one-man show. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible to get where you wanna be. So like, don't worry too much about that.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
Don't worry is always a great philosophy for anything.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the Bob Marley song, right?
Yeah.
So that's truth, because he's wisdom right there. So yeah, I mean, do you have anything to add on with regards to that?
No, I think it's pretty well said.
Okay, cool. So one final time, Neil is having a one-man poetry show.
Yes.
Can I call it that?
Yes, one-man poetry show. It's called Slam. It'll be at HCAC on September 30th and October 1st, 8 p.m. both nights. Please come out and support. Please come out and say hi to me afterwards.
Yeah. And give him feedback, right? That's what he wants, right?
And please, when you're talking to me, let me know what you thought of it. I will be very appreciative of even very specific feedback. And thanks so much to Nick for having me on.
Always a pleasure, man. We gotta help each other out, where we can. So go see his show. I remember the first time I went to his show, and I went as a friend, not expecting anything, but man, there was some great. I mean, the first poem he did was about a relationship, your past relationship, or something like that, and man, and that's what I mean by common things that no one talks about, and your poem resonated with me, and that's when I knew, like, this guy has something. So you won't regret it, is what I'm saying. So I'll post some links so that you guys can check out the where you can where everything is. Get tickets, where it's gonna be. I guess you want to shout out to
again, one more shout out. Thank you so much to Method Productions, to HCAC for housing me, to Camille for everything he has done for me so far, and to everyone else that has also been helping make this show a reality. So
Cool.
thank you. Yeah.
And I'll link their bios or Facebook page or whatever,
Yeah.
and you can check these guys out.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Neil.
Yes. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.